an example of the calculation of employees' tax. The information: Solomon is 32 years old, unmarried, and at the below income and expenses for the month of December 2022. He's employed by SASA Consultants as a manager. He had a salary of 40,400 Rand, travel allowance of 5,000 Rand, Christmas bonus of 50,000 Rand, pension fund contributions of 3,600 Rand, retirement annuity fund contributions of 600 Rand, payment to the bank for a bond, that's a loan on his house for 2,000 Rand, payment to trade union 150 Rand, medical fund contributions of 3,215 Rand. And then let's look at the notes. At the end of December 2022, Solomon is entitled to 5 days leave. He needs to take this leave before the end of March 2023. If he does not take the leave by then, SASA Consultants will pay him out 1,600 Rand times 5 days equals 8,000 Rand on 31 March 2023. So this is variable remuneration, and under section 7 capital B, variable remuneration is only taxed when it is paid. So this will only be paid on 31 March if he does not take the leave, so this won't be included in his calculation. Okay, note 2, in January 2022, Solomon was granted a bursary of 25,000 Rand to study. Unfortunately, due to circumstances during the year, Solomon did not complete his studies and informed SASA Consulting on 1 December 2022. Solomon will have to repay the amount over the following 12-month period starting from 31 January 2023. Assume that the official rate of interest was 7.75% at all times. He did not make a repayment in December 2022. And Solomon's salary was increased by 800 Rand per month on 1 December 2022. The pay increase was backdated to the 1st of August 2022, and his salary was received from 1 August, was therefore also increased with 800 Rand per month. And he received this backdated total amount for the amounts of August up to December in December. Note 4, Solomon belongs to the Employees Pension Fund. He contributed 3,600 Rand to the pension fund during December, and his employer also contributed an equal amount. Note 5, Solomon makes a retirement annuity fund contribution of 600 Rand per month. He has not informed his employer of these contributions. Note 6, Solomon has an agreement with his employer that they will deduct 2,000 Rand from his salary each month and pay directly into his home loan account. Note 7, Solomon contributes 3,215 Rand per month to a medical fund. His employer contributes 2,000 Rand per month to the fund. And during December 2022, he visited the doctor once and had to pay a levy of 300 Rand, which was not covered by his medical aid. His prescribed medicines amounted to 800 Rand, of which the medical aid paid 730 Rand. Required: calculate the amount of employees' tax that would be withheld by SASA Consultants from Solomon's remuneration for December 2022. So it's very important. It's the employer, SASA Consultants, that is calculating Solomon's tax on his remuneration. It is not Solomon that is calculating his own annual normal income tax for purposes of submitting it to SARS and to be assessed on it, and either to pay in, Solomon has to pay in, or he might get a refund. So it's important to note the difference between employees' tax calculations and the normal income tax calculations. As you read through the question, there's important information that you should pick up immediately and know how to apply it. So Solomon is 32 years old, so he doesn't get any special treatment because of his age. So he's not 65 or 75 or older. And all the income and expenses in the table below for December 2022 was given per month. That's important to remember, so it has to be annualized to get the annual equivalent remuneration, except for the Christmas bonus. That 50,000 Rand is only paid once a year in December. So that can't be slotted in your calculations together with the monthly amounts. It has to be calculated individually in the annual amount, the second calculation. So that must be excluded from the monthly remuneration. Then the leave that Solomon hasn't taken yet, if it wasn't taken by the end of March, he'll be paid out 8,000 Rand on the 31st of March. Right, so we don't know whether Solomon will still take leave. So at this stage, that 8,000 Rand has not materialized. It's only taxed when it's paid out, which will then be the 31st of March if it happens. And that's a variable payment or variable remuneration, and that's only taxed when it's paid out. So we'll ignore it for now. Okay, the study bursary that Solomon received, he informed his employer that he has not completed his studies and he has to repay that bursary now, starting from the 31st of January 2023, the first payment. But he already informed his employer on the 1st of December, so he now has an interest-free loan. So that results in a fringe benefit. So the interest portion that is the fringe benefit to Solomon has to be calculated on a monthly basis. So for December, that interest will be calculated at SARS's official rate and included in his remuneration as a fringe benefit. Then he also received back pay of 800 Rand a month from August to December. So that's 5 months times 800 Rand, it's 4,000 Rand, which will be paid to him in December. And that's also variable remuneration. It's only taxed when he was paid out, and it will also be excluded from the monthly remuneration because Solomon is not going to get 4,000 Rand a month now for each month following December. He's only going to get 800 Rand more each month after that. So that 4,000 Rand must be excluded. And then Solomon contributed 3,600 to the pension fund and his employer an equal amount. So you must know that 3,600 his employer pays is also a fringe benefit, which he must be taxed on and is part of his remuneration. And Solomon contributes to the retirement annuity fund, but he did not inform his employer, so his employer cannot take that into account because the employer is unaware. But when Solomon calculates his own personal income tax, not the employer calculating the employee's tax, but Solomon is calculating his own tax, then he will be taking that into account as a deduction. That's the difference between employees' tax and the taxpayer calculating their own tax. And then his employer also contributed 2,000 Rand per month to the medical aid fund. So that's also remuneration for Solomon as a fringe benefit, which was be included. Okay, let's look at the solution. The remuneration, we started with a salary, it's 40,400 Rand. The travel allowance, the general rule is 80% of the travel allowance is included in remuneration. If Solomon proved to the employer that he uses his vehicle 80% of the time for business purposes, only 20% will be included. But that did not happen, so 80% is included, and that gives us 4,000 Rand. And the fringe benefit for the interest-free bursary repayment, the amount is 25,000 Rand of the bursary, and we use SARS's official rate, which was given as 7.75% per annum, so that didn't have to be adjusted by adding 1% because it was already the official rate that was given, not the repo rate. And we have to apportion that for a month of December. It's 31 days in December divided by 365 days for the year. And that gives us an amount of 165 Rand. And the fringe benefit for the pension fund contributions, 3,600 Rand that the employer contributes, which is taxed as remuneration. And the fringe benefit for the medical fund contributions, 2,000 Rand that the employer contributes, is taxed as a fringe benefit, 2,000 Rand. And that gives us a total of 50,165 Rand. Then the deductions, the retirement fund contributions, the amount for pension fund contributions, Solomon contributes 3,600 and his employer contributes 3,600 on which he is taxed. So the total gives us 7,200. The retirement annuity fund contributions, no proof was furnished to the employer, so it can't be taken into account. So the total is 7,200. And now we have to calculate the limitations. It's the lesser of 350,000 divided by 12 because we're working with monthly figures. Everything has to be the same. Monthly, we can't mix monthly and annual figures. So divided by 12 gives us 29,167. And the other calculation is of the remuneration, 50,165 multiplied by 27.5% gives us 13,795 Rand. So we will then go and see what the actual contributions was 7,200. We are allowed to deduct 13,795, but we can only deduct the actual contributions of 7,200, not more. Remember that, please. And then the payment of the home loan, it's a private expense. It's a prohibited deduction under section 23, and the payment to the trade union is also prohibited, so no deductions for those two then. And the balance of remuneration then is 42,965. So that is for a month of December. So now we have to go calculate the annual equivalent of remuneration. So we take that 42,965 then and multiply by 12 to get the annual equivalent, which gives us 515,580 Rand. Now I have to go calculate the normal tax on that. So the 550,580 less 488,700 Rand, multiply that, the difference by 36%. plus 115,762 gives us 125,439 normal tax. Then we deduct the rebate. It's 16,425 for people younger than 65, and the medical fund credit, the section 6 capital A, it's 347 Rand a month for 12 months. It's 4,164 Rand. So here we work with 12 months now because the tax the tax was calculated on an annual equivalent, which is for a full year then. So that's why we multiply the medical tax credit by 12, also to annualize it. And there is no section 6B tax credit because Simon is not 65 or older. Only 65 or older people are allowed the section 6B additional qualifying medical expense tax credit if they provide proof to the employer. So Solomon does not get that section 6B tax credit. So then we're left with the tax on the remuneration is 104,850 Rand. And we have to get a monthly figure for December, which is part of our calculation. So we divide it by 12 and we get 8,738 Rand. Now we look at part 2 of the solution or the calculation. So now we are going to calculate the employee's tax on the annual amounts. So these are the amounts now that are only received once a year, or they are variable payments. So the annual equivalent of the remuneration, which we calculated in the first calculation of 42,965 Rand times 12, we start off with that amount. You must always start off with that amount. And that is 515,580. And now we add to that annual amounts. Okay, the leave pay, like we said, is variable remuneration, which accrues on the date of payment, which will be the 31st of March 2023, if it happens. And the backdated pay received in December, 800 times 5, 4,000 Rand is part of this calculation. And the bonus of 50,000 Rand he received in December, the Christmas bonus, will form part of this. So we get a total of 569,580 Rand. So the tax on that annual or that amount, including the annual amounts, is calculated now. It's 569,580 minus 488,700, and that difference multiplied by 36% plus 115,762 Rand gives us 144,879 Rand. Then we deduct the rebate again of 16,425, and we deduct the medical fund credit, tax credit again, section 6 capital A of 4,164 Rand, and we get the tax on the remuneration including the annual amounts is 124,290, and from there then we go deduct the tax on the remuneration excluding the annual amounts. So that was the previous calculation we did. That was 104,850. And then we know what is the employee's tax on the annual amounts. It is 19,440 Rand. So that's how we calculate it. And then it was required to calculate the employee's tax for December. So we also have to go add the monthly tax, which we calculated in the previous calculation, which was 8,738 Rand, and that then gives us a total of 28,178 Rand that was calculated as employees' tax in December.